Hello everyone, welcome to the Ceci Truman Live Show. This show will be starting in just a few moments, so stay tuned. And if you're seeing this on social media, please like, share, and follow. For more information, go to trumanforcongress.com. This show is brought to you by Ceci Truman. Here's Ceci.
Welcome everyone to the Ceci Truman Show. Today we will be discussing a very important topic, and that is our children and also what is going on in the state of California. There is a ballot initiative called protectkidsca.com, and we will be talking about that and why there's such urgency for Californians to sign this initiative. We have a very special guest. She's an attorney. Her name is Nicole Pearson with Facts, Law, Truth, and Justice. We will be talking about the legislation that is in place now against our children and what effects this will have on the next generation and even on our kids currently. I want to show a brief clip as to what we're talking about. Let's go ahead and roll that clip.
Huge. I think this just came down on Friday, so this is fairly new.
Yeah, it's horrible. So, of course, you know, the lawsuit is about more than just the ballot initiative. It's about the system of checks and balances, the separation of powers. You know, that's what Facts, Law, Truth, Justice is about. It's about preserving our fundamental and constitutionally protected rights.
Once this initiative gets passed, they will no longer be allowed to take any hormone treatment, puberty blockers, or have any permanent surgeries done on their bodies. So by we the people raising up, by the Christians, by the parents, by the moms and dads, and all of us joining together to get the signatures for this petition.
We've aimed at addressing gender issues in schools. National correspondent William LaJeunesse shows us from Los Angeles.
This is a national issue. And in terms of fighting in California, I believe that we are at war.
A war over 100 words that define a parental notification bill sponsored by the group Protect Kids California. By statute, however, the Attorney General, in this case Democrat Rob Bonta, controls the title and summary of an initiative he opposes. Supporters say the initiative would require schools to notify parents if a child wants to identify as a different gender, block transgender athletes from female sports, and require students use facilities consistent with their birth gender.
A majority of Californians we know support the idea of parental notification.
By law, Bonta is required to prepare a, quote, true and impartial title and summary. Supporters of the measure say he's not doing that. He changed Protect Kids of California Act to Restricts Rights of Transgender Youth Initiative. He also changed female students should have fair and safe opportunities to compete to prohibit transgender female students from participating in female sports.
It's inflammatory, it's prejudicial, it's incomplete, and it's inaccurate.
The parents group took Bonta to court, where the judge, a former lawyer for Democratic Governor Jerry Brown, tentatively agreed with Bonta.
Okay, so what are we talking about? We are talking about prohibiting child sterilization. We are talking about not allowing males, biological males, intact males in girls' spaces and in girls' sports. Also, we are wanting to prohibit through this ballot initiative no secrets from parents. Parents should know at all times what is going on with their children. So let's talk more about this with our very special guest, Nicole Pearson.
Hey, Ceci, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. It's such an honor to have you on the show. You are a fighter. You're a wife. You're a mom of 3 children. I think you said 7, 5, and 1, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
my hat is off to you because, not only do you have a family, you have a full-time job, but you are fighting for the state of California. You are fighting for all children in the state of California. And I know that you're working alongside of Assemblyman Bill Saley. He's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And also another attorney named Aaron Friday. And we've got school board members a part of this. We've got mama bears, papa bears. I know we've got the mom and dad army involved. I mean, there are just so many facets of this initiative that is, we're actually running out of time, right, to get this in. So can you first and foremost break down what this ballot initiative will be accomplishing? And I kind of summarized it a little bit, but I want to go more into detail. And, we need to tell parents why this is so urgent and why everybody, whether you have children in school or not, why every parent needs to get involved.
Well, the first thing I'd like to point out is even though it's a California initiative, it actually protects all 74 million children in the country. And the reason why I say that is because California is a sanctuary state. Everybody who's watching this, who lives in the United States, needs to be paying attention to what happens in California. Why? Because over the last 2 or 3 years, this state, the progressive extremist legislators, rubber stamped by our extremist governor, Gavin Newsome, and supported by his henchman, Tony Thurmond, the superintendent of public instruction, and Attorney General Rob Bonta, have turned California into a trans sanctuary state. What that means is that we no longer, because of Senate Bill 107, Senate Bill 245, Senator Scott Wiener's bill, Senator Nancy Skinner's bills, and a slew of other bills, we have decided as a state that we will no longer recognize and enforce and abide by the valid laws and orders and warrants of other states. So if you live in a state, a conservative state, if you believe it's a conservative state, such as Tennessee or Texas, where they have perhaps banned, for example, the sterilization and mutilation of children, an adult can bring your child to California to receive gender affirming care, again in air quotes because it's neither gender affirming nor care. They can receive that in violation of your home state's law, in violation of a court order that says you have legal custody of that child, in violation of or disregarding a warrant. So let's just say you're the mom, you have legal custody of your son or daughter, and your ex takes your son or daughter to California to receive, again, gender affirming care. You come to the state with a valid warrant issued from your home state. Gavin Newsome has said, we will not honor that lawful, legal, enforceable warrant, and we will protect the adult that has brought your child here. And no, I say adults, not necessarily the guardian, the adult that brought the child here, and the healthcare providers, again, not doctors, healthcare providers, again, very broad language. What does that mean? They've expanded the definition. If they are receiving gender affirming care, I'd also know it's also if they are receiving sexual or reproductive health care, but that's not the topic of this podcast. So every single parent and every single adult with a conscience and a heart needs to be paying attention to this podcast. Every child is in danger because of the extremist policies that California legislators have been enacting in this state. So that's the first thing I'd like to say. The second thing is because of these policies and because we don't have legislators in the Capitol, such as Bill Saley, we really only have one standing up for us. We need to go the ballot initiative process, which is really the the method of our last resort as we the people. I know it sounds hokey and it makes you sound, extremist or whatever, but this is truly the power of the people when your government is not representing you, and in this instance, actually actively attacking you and your constitutionally protected fundamental rights. You have the authority to pass your own laws. So that's what we're trying to do with the ballot initiative. And this Protect Kids CA ballot initiative will do three things. Like you mentioned, it will ban or make illegal the sterilization and mutilation of children, because that's what gender affirming care is. It sterilizes these children, it mutilates them, meaning it takes healthy body parts and converts them into unhealthy, non-functional body parts. And it will only apply to children. If you're an adult, you can do whatever you want. But as a child, we're going to protect these children from adults who are seeking to do experiments on them. Number two, it will repeal existing law in California. If people don't know, already in California right now, adult, like you said, fully intact males can go into women's and girls' safe spaces, locker rooms, changing rooms, spas. We've seen those, videos on the internet of men going into spas and exposing themselves, and also into their sports and their facilities. So it's going to repeal that law. Everything will return to being sex-based. And the third thing it will do is, again, as you said, it will reiterate with the United States Constitution, California Constitution, and existing California laws, like the education code, already say, which is that parents need to be involved in their children's education and care and upbringing. And so we will prohibit schools from keeping secrets from parents. So those are the three things that this ballot initiative will do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so as far as what we're talking about, sex changes on minors, this is an experiment. This is an experiment, and it can be as young as 9 years old. It could be on the parents' insurance without their knowledge or consent. Correct?
Yes.
And we're talking about puberty blockers, and this is for life, right? Whether they're transitioning or decide later they want to detransition.
Right.
So this is extremely concerning. Now you've mentioned that no matter what other states laws have in place, they can be transported to California because this is like you said, in quote, a sanctuary state. And so this is completely evil. And we know that what we're up against is a supermajority in Sacramento. It's approximately 80% very far leftist. I mean, I'd say the Democrat Party has left you, and they are now very far leftist, communist, have Marxist ideologies, and they want complete control over our children. And so this is, the result of that, we are witnessing when we see high schoolers and, college students who have been in the indoctrination camps for, so many years. They're out on the streets protesting death to Israel, from the river to the sea. They're now advocating for the terrorists, Hamas. And, so this is the fruit of the education system. And now our government wants to hijack the schools, and, like we're talking about, keeping secrets from parents. They want to separate children from their parents. They want to separate families. And so this is completely evil. It's, and parents need to wake up and realize what is happening with our system. I recently talked to some moms that they did not know what was going on. They, and it just breaks my heart that I think people think if they just bury their head in the sand that, there are other people taking care of it. But, this is an uphill battle. This is a Goliath we are trying to fight.
Well, you raised a couple of issues, and I was just taking, I always do my lawyer, take my notes as I'm listening. I highly recommend that everybody watch Letter to the American Church. Letter to the American Church is an adaptation of Eric Metaxas's book, Letter to the American Church. And it basically points out the undeniable parallels between what's happening today in our country and what happened during the Nazi takeover in Europe. And it also touches on Maoist China and what happened during that revolution. And what we see happening today is lockstep with those communist, Marxist ideologies, like you mentioned, and those plans. It is to attack the nuclear family. We've seen that for a very long time. We've seen a concentrated attack, particularly in minority and immigrant communities, especially the African American community, where we've seen, the rise of the single mother of home, which has led to the welfare state, which has led to, we all know what happened with that horrible social experiment that they did on African American communities. And it's steadily progressed. You and I are both Latin. The attack has been so egregious on especially the Latin American communities, because we believe so much in higher education and education itself. Culturally, we believe in our doctors. And so when we come to this country, I'm a daughter of immigrants, you are as well. And so when we come to this country, there has always been an emphasis on education, on educational institutions, on the medical community, and we blindly trust them. And so they have devoured our community, also because we're extremely hardworking. And this is not to say at the exclusion of other minority or immigrant communities, but I'm just going to go through each of them. I'll speak to ours and what I have seen as a Latina Spanish-speaking attorney and the clients that we see walking in our door. My heart breaks for our community because they also know that we're extremely hardworking. We take 2 or 3, 4 jobs. We are not able to attend school board meetings at, for example, 2 p.m. in the afternoon, that they change and they modify the agenda, and then they know parents are coming, so they move the spicy agenda item to another day, and they keep modifying. They make the curriculum available, for example, from 1:15 to 3:15 p.m. when people are working. They don't send home materials in our native language. That also goes for the Vietnamese and Mandarin speaking communities, etc. So they are taking advantage of minority and immigrant communities. This also goes to your point about, the Democratic Party and how they use these communities to get elected into office, and then they abandon them. And not only just abandon them, but they actually actively target them to achieve their communist and Marxist, ideals. So it's extremely heartbreaking. It is extremely obvious. And California, again, the supermajority, we have very, very few representatives who are actively trying to work for us and protect us. You mentioned Bill Asaley. He actually tried to present a bill that Erin Friday, you mentioned her, we all drafted for him. That's AB 1314, which would have been making a law, codifying into law that schools can't have secrets from parents. Well, the Democratic supermajority, in particular, Al Naratsuchi of South Bay, who was the chair of the Education Committee in the Assembly, wouldn't even give that bill a hearing. I'm sure you see that also at the federal level as well. When there is a good bill, they don't even give it a hearing because they don't even want the opportunity to, expose what's happening and give it a platform. Because if we knew that a bill like that was on the floor up for a vote, we would be meeting with our representatives, asking them to vote and support it, and then seeing the ones expose themselves for the ones that, who don't support it. So we have to resort to the ballot initiative process. It's extremely time consuming. It is extremely expensive. We have been basically funding this ourselves with the Protect Kids CA Executive Committee with, we have not raised a lot of money. I can explain that to you in a second, but it has been almost a completely grassroots movement. But we have to get this this initiative onto the ballot so we can start protecting every child in this country immediately.
And a big concern is that Attorney General Bonta has changed the language of the title of this bill to confuse the constituents. I mean, it's so disgusting to me because they are not representing the people of California. They're not only keeping secrets from parents when it has to do with, kids at school, but they're keeping secrets from the constituents. And so they're not representing the people. They're not even allowing them to know truly what is going on. I mean, they're being so deceptive. I mean, this just goes, another level of just lying to the people and gaslighting the people. Yes. Can you explain how he changed the verbiage on the summary of the bill to deceive everyone?
Yes. I mean, California people are not waking up and are not stepping into the fray. We need people to Just say no. I mean, I say like all for facts, law, truth, justice, our firm and our, our human and I call it a human and civil rights constitutional law firm and advocacy organization. And we literally train you, do not comply. Just say no. We need to stop giving credence to these illegal, unconstitutional guidelines and announcements and procedures and recommendations. Our government is an instrumentality of our creation. And even though we give it the authority to vote on our behalf, they must vote on our behalf. If they don't, that vote is contrary to the Constitution. It's void. Any actions that run afoul of our our fundamental constitutionally protected rights, or what we the people are asking them to do, is void ab initio. It's void on its face. So we need to stop acting as if these tyrants, these communistic authoritarian tyrants, have any authority. They don't. What they're doing is completely illegal, unconstitutional, and wrong. So we need to just act accordingly and not pay attention to them. Number one. Number two, what's happened in California is that the Legislative Office of Administrative Affairs used to be the office that would write a title and summary for a ballot initiative. So what you do is you are a citizen, you're a resident of California, you see something that you want to pass a law, the state is not passing a law that is, achieving that interest. You go to your representatives, no one wants to touch the bill or author the bill, because you have to have a legislator present it in order to present it on the floor or at the Capitol. You cannot do that, right? At this point. So we're like, okay, we're going to write our own initiative. We're going to write our own law. And we wrote all the language, hyper-technical language, and then we gave it our own title and summary. We called it the Protect Kids of California, 2024 ballot initiative. And we summarized it. You have 100 words between that title and summary to identify the chief points of that initiative and what it intends to accomplish. So we submitted all of that, except now that things have changed, the Attorney General has to approve your initiative, and then he or she has the final say in what the title is and what the summary is. So Rob Bonta, who, as you mentioned earlier, is suing school districts and teachers to silence them, to say that they don't have the right to not keep secrets, that parents don't have the right to know what's going on with the kids. I mean, we have a completely prejudiced individual writing our title and summary. So what does he do? He takes the Protect Kids of California 2024 ballot initiative title and the summary that we gave it, and rewrites it to be the Restricts Rights of Transgender Youth Ballot Initiative Act of 2024, and then writes the summary that is factually inaccurate, incomplete, does not identify the chief purposes, and actually flat out misstates what the initiative will accomplish. So we sued him, and we just got the final ruling. We sued him to try and get the court to review the title and summary, and we just asked them for a neutral one. We said, you don't have to accept ours. Our, Protect Kids is arguably, it presented it in a very favorable light, restricts youth, that restricts the rights of children is obviously very negative. So let's just have something neutral. And the judge said, no, obviously the judge was not gonna, second guess his boss, the Attorney General, and said, no, I think that this is this is within his right as the Attorney General to write this title and summary. But we're going to appeal this decision because it's not about this initiative. It's about what we were just discussing, which is the separation of powers and the Constitution and our rights as we the people. If we have the individual who is denying us due process and trying to strip us of our rights, we can't have that same individual being the gatekeeper and holding the keys to the, to the gate access to the ballot initiative process. We have to have that person outside of the equation. We have to return that role back to the legislative office because that's the only way that we might achieve like an objectively neutral title and summary in these kinds of circumstances.
Right. So my question to parents is, are you okay with males, biological males, going into your daughter, your granddaughters in the girls' locker rooms and public bathrooms? What about sports? Are you okay with a male competing against your granddaughter or daughter in a female sport? I mean, that's the women's rights had worked so hard for decades. And here we've got a whole reversal girls' scholarships are being taken away because a male has, they're biologically have more muscle mass, they have more strength, more stamina. So, this is unfair to girls, college, high school. They are not getting their college scholarships that they deserve, and also just the acknowledgement of all of their hard work. So that is one thing, and also the whole idea of sex changes on minors and giving kids puberty blockers that are irreversible with the first the first pill given to them.
Right.
So I'll let you expound on that.
Well, so there are three things, and I just want to be very clear. And you mentioned it, this isn't like a shameless plug, but like I am a mom of very small young children. And in 2018, 2019, I was shutting down my firm. And this is just important for context because I want people to understand what is happening and why I'm in this fight. I was shutting down my firm when COVID happened. And I was very terrified of COVID, and I locked my family down because at that time, I only had two children, and they both have conditions, like very serious conditions that made me very concerned about COVID because of the propaganda that I was seeing. But very quickly, when I started to see what the government was doing, I realized that it had nothing to do with my health and safety, our health and safety, and that it was this, the government was trying to like ram through this digital tracking, just social currency, social credit system, the exact same one that we see in China that has existed for over a decade, and that they were trying to roll out, and they did roll out in Israel, and also I think in Australia and New Zealand, and they tried to do in Germany, I believe Germany or England, I can't remember. But my point to you is the reason why I stepped into the fray is because the U.S. Supreme Court, the federal Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, is explicitly clear on what our fundamental constitutionally protected rights are. In addition to that, we have over 100 years of U.S. Supreme Court precedent that reiterates and confirms all of the arguments that myself and my colleagues at Facts, Law, Truth, Justice, including now Aaron Friday, have been arguing. I'm not here fighting this fight because I think I have a feeling and a little believey that I might be right. I'm willing to die on these hills because I'm right. I know the law says what it says. And I say all the time, I've said it since my very first live in the beginning of COVID, the law is on our side. I would not be doing this if I didn't know the law was on your side as human beings, as American citizens, as California residents, and as parents and guardians of our children. And the other reason I'm willing to die on this hill is because it's our children. And if we continue to allow the government, like I said, to do these brazenly illegal and unconstitutional things, they just pick an emergency, whether it's systemic racism with Black Lives Matter, COVID, a novel virus. Now, it's the transgenderism. Now it's the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It's religion. They pick a hot button topic to silence you so you don't stand up where you see these not only highly illegal, but immoral and unethical and just inhumane injustices happening to the most vulnerable individuals in our society. So I want people to know, number one, that's why we do this work. So the law is on our side, no matter what the Attorney General calls it and summarizes it, no matter what people call you, what names, you have to stand up. Because if you don't stand up and stand in the gap for children or these vulnerable communities and individuals, they will continue to, it's called the slippery slope, and they'll continue to slowly strip away our rights, okay? And just our ability to be free and live and be human beings. Because if you don't have the authority to say what goes in your or your child's body, if you don't have the right to maintain the privacy of your home, and the government can come in and tell you what you have to do with your body or your child's body at any time because of this new thing that they invented and they created, you're literally like a bot, you're a slave. So we have to stand up and start fighting now. Number one. Number two, there are three things happening. And to that point, you have a fundamental constitutionally protected right to direct the upbringing, care, education, religion of your children and your family. You have a fundamental right to privacy. It's not expressly stated or enumerated, we call it, in the federal Constitution. But again, the U.S. Supreme Court has found that right over the last 100 years. So you have that right. In California, you actually do have a constitutional right to privacy. We actually added it to our Constitution. To that end, you actually have the right not only to reject life-saving medical treatment or drugs or care, you have the right to die in California. So explain to me how I don't have the right to say what goes in my body, whether it's a COVID-19 vaccine or a mask on my face, or also for my child, piggybacking on that parental right, to say what goes in my child's body. My child does not have a right greater than my right that has been established over the last 100 years as a parent to be responsible for that child until they're 18 years old. And then that also goes to the school issue. There is no law in the state of California. And we now have Rob Bonta admitting in court just a few days ago, I'm sure you saw on Bill Staley's webpage or his Instagram page, he admits there's not one California law that allows or gives schools the authority to keep secrets from parents. To the contrary, the Education Code, the Health and Safety Code, the Welfare and Institutions Code, the California Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, and all that U.S. Supreme Court precedent, it's called, or that case law, says that parents have the right to know what's going on with their child and to make the ultimate decisions when it comes to that child's education, upbringing, religion, and care. So again, I say all of this in a very long-winded answer to say you are on the right side of the law and of the moral issue, or the moral side, and the, you're on the right side of history when you support this ballot initiative, and you're protecting, again, the most vulnerable in our communities. And ultimately, you are protecting yourselves, because they'll come after the kids. They came after the anti-vax kids. They came after the immigrant kids, the minority kids, the transgender kids, who most of them, like a statistical majority of these children who claim to be gender confused, have mental health issues or some sort of cognitive impairment, ADHD, ADD. They have some sort of condition. And that's why this transgenderism appeals to them. You are allowing them to eventually come after your regular kid, and then ultimately after you as a regular parent of a regular kid. So we need to start standing in the gap for kids and for all of these communities today, and support the ballot initiative.
Right. Not only do we have constitutional laws on our side, but we have numbers on our side. And what I've been trying to project is that and I talk to so many people all the time. It's time for not only the constituents to be educated, to be activated, and then to engage, but the church as well. And I like to quote this number. I was talking to Sonia Shaw, president of Chino Hills School District, and we were discussing this very issue and promoting protectkidsca.com. But I was telling her that in California alone, and this is what the supermajority in Sacramento is very afraid of. They know, but I don't think everyone on our side knows. But just with church members, churchgoers alone, there are 13.5 million church people. And I kind of put them in the box of being conservative. Just them alone, 13.5, 50% are registered to vote. 25% of those people go and vote in the generals, and only 10% vote in the primary. So we've got the numbers on our side, but it's time for everyone to get educated on all of these bills that are being passed, these laws that will catch up. I think we are so bent on, just living life, being comfortable. And I know a lot of parents are 2-parent incomes, households, and they're just trying to survive probably. They're just trying to get their kids to sports, to school, and they're just living their life. And I understand that, but we don't have the luxury any longer of not knowing what is going on in our nation, in our state, on our local levels, because they are truly trying to take even the power of the local level away from us. Yes. Besides keeping information from us. So the only way around this, and like you said, having a ballot initiative is kind of last resort,
Mhm.
since the supermajority in California is not truly representing the people. But it's up to us to know what's going on first and foremost, and then
Mhm.
it's up to us to get engaged. And I mentioned to Sonia, there is something called the Black Robed Regiment, and these were the pastors during the Revolutionary War that back in those days they wore a black robe when they preached. And these pastors would preach the gospel, and then what, they would remove the robes and they would go into battle with the militia.
Mhm.
Truly, like this is a spiritual battle that we are fighting.
100%.
It's light
Yes.
against
Yes.
darkness. This
Yes.
is truly evil and demonic stuff that we're talking about, that they're trying to inflict on our children. But also, we have to have feet to our faith. We can't just say, oh, well, it'll all work out in the end, because it won't work out in the end unless you get involved. And so I'm imploring parents, and even parents of grown children like mine. My baby is 22 years old and 6'4". And you know what? It's our time to plug in, because guess what? We're going to have grandkids one day. What kind of generation, what kind of society are we going to have if we just take a back seat to all of this? It's going to come knocking on all of our front doors sooner than later.
Yeah. And I mean, to people who say, just have faith, it'll work out in the end. What kind of end? Like you just said, like, I don't want to go down like this. I don't want my children to live like this. There are alternatives. You can pull them. At this point, to be totally honest with your listeners, your viewers, we have seen and we have a horrible story that we're about to blow the lid off of, from kindergarten all the way up to universities. We have seen what you said, the indoctrination camps, and people need to understand that the communists, we're dealing with, first of all, we're at war. Okay. Like you just said, it is a spiritual war. When you shut down churches and you leave open strip clubs and liquor stores, it is a spiritual war. When you go after children, exactly. When you go after children and you use children as shields to protect hypochondriac, just delusional adults, and you literally put them on the altar of Moloch in a different way, those children were sacrificed for adults. That is spiritual warfare. We're also in actual warfare. It's just different warfare than, it's not the bullets and the tanks that we used to see before. It's asymmetrical warfare. It's informational warfare. And again, if you watch the Letter to the American Church, you will see how they go after society. They go after the nuclear families. They go after the children. So they break apart the nuclear family, the moms and the dads, or the parent, the partners. Then they go after the children. They try to separate the children from the parents. As Lenin said, give me your child for 4 years, give me your child for, 4 months, 4 years, 8 years, and I will give you a revolutionary for the rest of their life. It is textbook. Literally textbook. I have it right here. Where is my Communist Manifesto that I reread this weekend? Oh, here are the other ones that I read this weekend. I'm constantly reading. People need to understand we are at war. And so again, it's not the traditional war that you see. And if you watch communists and you read their history, they tell you their plans. The devil also tells you their plans. They will sit. You have seen them at school boards. They will stay till 3 a.m. They will run the slow game, and they have. They've been infiltrating the seminaries. They've been infiltrating the universities. They've been infiltrating the school boards, and they will do it with patience, because they know they actually, if they operate in the open, they will never win. We will shut them down. So they have to do the slow, secret game, because that's the only way that you can take down this country and this constitutional republic. So people, like you said, the time of laissez-faire governance is over. We should be grateful that they have exposed themselves and revealed their hand, so that we can start to act and just to rise up and counter their attacks. There are so many more of us. We are so much more powerful. We have the law on our side. We have people like you standing up, like Aaron Friday, like Assemblymember Bill Asaley, like Sonia Shaw. She's an incredible warrior. We have so many people standing up, leading the charge. We just need you to fight alongside us, because even though it only took 3% of the population to win the Revolutionary War, imagine if 10 had showed up, or 20. It would have been less devastating, less mass carnage, and it would have happened so much faster. So use this to your advantage. Use social media. The fact that we have social media, We can send with one text message. We can
share.
one click of a button, send 1,000 emails with the link to this show, to protectkidsca.com. Download the petition.
Okay.
The deadline is May, just to be totally transparent, because people are like, that's not the deadline. If they look, Google it, which is the deadline to submit all of our signatures. We need about 550,000 to get this initiative onto the ballot, is May 28th. However, what we need to do is we need to sort all of the petitions by county, make sure the declarations are signed and make sure everything's in order. And then we need to bundle them and then hand deliver them to each of the 58 county registrar's offices in the state. So what we're asking everyone to do is go to protectkidsca.com, download the petition. Like literally, if we can't get this on the radio, or on the out broadcast sooner, and it's Sunday, we need you to download the petition 5 times. It's for free. If you print it back and forth, it's 2 or 3 pages, black and white, and you need to gather, 12 times 10, 120 signatures. Just spend one day. It is a drop in the bucket for the work that we've been doing for the last several months. And it is certainly a drop in the bucket compared to, like you mentioned, the lifelong transitioning that these children will have, or the detransitioning they will have to go through, endure, if once they realize they made a mistake. It is truly one day spent gathering 100 signatures and then dropping them in the mail on or before May 15th. So we have time to, again, organize, bundle them, and deliver them to the county registrar's office. We really need everybody's help. We need all hands on deck. This is the silver bullet to all of everyone's concerns. Sending their kids to this bathroom, sending their kids to the locker room, sending their kids to go to sports, to go try out, to go to a tournament, to, rush a sorority, to go to college, even get into college. Like you just said, this isn't just winning a trophy. This is especially like we're talking about immigrant and minority communities. Some of these are first generation kids who will not be able to go to college without these scholarships. So now we have these girls can't go to college, can't have that professional collegiate career, that professional career afterwards, or an academic career. We're talking about their entire, rest of their lives that are being affected. So this is the silver bullet for all of our concerns right now. And so we need you guys, download the petition, protectkidsca.com, get your 100 signatures and mail them to us, to our PO box in Roseville on or before May 15th. So we can rise up and protect the kids today.
Absolutely. Like I said, if we don't, and this is also a Reagan quote, if we do not have freedom in America, there's nowhere to escape to.
Yes.
And that is a quote from Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
Also, there's another quote. It says, those that control the narrative control the people. And that was George Orwell in 1984. And so that's what we see. The Attorney General Bonta, he's trying to control the narrative, the summary and the title of this initiative. But that is just, it's what we're witnessing. The far leftists are trying to control the narrative. And so anyhow, that's what we need to overcome. And we need to be, like the Bible says, we need to be wise as a serpent, yet gentle as a dove. But, we need to fight, and our children are worth the fight. I mean, we are to take care of the widows and the orphans. And I put the children in this category because they are, if we don't fight for our children, it's like they are orphans. They don't have the parental protections. And so, if we cannot care for the most vulnerable in our nation, then how do we expect for God to protect our nation in the first place? And so, well, thank you so much, Nicole. I know that we spoke for a little while there, but this is all very, very important. And I just want every parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle to feel empowered that, we have, again, the law is on our side, the constitutional laws, but we need the numbers. We have the fighters, but we need the people to get behind the fighters, and we need the masses to go out there and fight and defend our children. So this is one very important way that we can do this. So we will leave the links. We will leave the website is protectkidsca.com. And how can the people find you, by the way, Nicole?
So protectkidsca.com, that's where you'll find anybody in the entire country can donate to this initiative. I will say at this point, we probably won't be hiring professional signature gatherers, but it will help, help us with the cost that we've already incurred doing, printing the ballot initiatives and supplies for people and traveling to speak and promote it and gather signatures, anyone in the country, regardless of whether you live here or registered to vote in California, can donate at protectkidsca.com. Only California registered voters can sign it. Anyone who's over the age of 18, and you can sign it even if you live, for example, in Tennessee. If you're still registered, you haven't changed your registration, you still are registered here in California, you can sign it. Anyone who's over the age of 18 can help gather the signatures. And then you can find me at factslawtruthjustice.com. That's our website. And follow me on X and on Instagram, Nicole Pearson, ESQ on Instagram, and Nicole Pearson JD on X. That's a long story in and of itself, but I just want to leave everyone with my favorite Bible verse, which is Matthew 18:6, which is basically when Jesus said, woe is he who harms my little one. So it's very confusing to me, where am I, okay, let's see here. It would be better for him that a millstone hang around his neck and that he were drowned to the depth of the sea. Another one of mine that I love is that what you do to the least of my people, you do unto me. So people who are sitting on the sidelines, pastors who are not stepping into the fray, who are, distorting that, separation of church and state. That's not what it meant. And you absolutely have to step in the gap for children and protect children. There's literally no Bible verse that justifies your complicity, your silence. Yeah, exactly. So complacency, exactly. Your complicity. I say silence is compliance, and compliance is silence is compliance, and compliance is complicity. And so I say that all the time. You have to protect the little ones because eventually it will end up on your doorstep, like you said. So thank you so much for your time and for being brave and for everything you're doing, your run, and for stepping into the fray as well. It's a lot. It's asymmetric warfare, but we should also feel grateful that we can do this sitting on our couches in our pajamas. We can do so much via social media and emails and text messages and online. So we should be grateful we don't have to run into battle and get our legs blown off by cannonballs. This is a fight that, everyone should be able and willing to fight.
Well, and this is the kind of fight that we want before it gets to that point. We don't want civil war on our American soil like we've had in the past. We want to fight in this capacity. We want to be effective, but again, be encouraged, people. We have the numbers. We have the constitutional law on our side. We just need to activate you all. So, we've got a lot of fighters and more coming, more joining us. So feel encouraged by that. Don't feel discouraged. Don't feel overwhelmed. Just know that we need to come together, and that's what the left, these communists, these Marxists are very afraid of. Us coming together, being knowledgeable about what they're doing, because they don't want their deeds being exposed. But we are exposing them. And Nicole, thank you. You're a fighter, and I appreciate everything you're doing and the calling that God has put on you, and that you are so bold and brave, intelligent. And you're not going to give up. You're not going to give up. And neither am I. And neither are you guys, right? So anyhow, well, I thank you all. Just remember 2 Chronicles 7:14. It says that if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, will seek my face, will turn from their wicked ways, then God promises that he will hear from heaven. He will answer our prayers, and he will heal our land. And don't we need our land to be healed? We are in complete chaos right now. California's turned into a banana republic, but we can be encouraged by the word of God and what God promises. So parents, we need you. Aunties, uncles, grandparents, we need you. And so anyway, God bless you guys. God bless you, Nicole, and God save America.
Amen.
This show is brought to you by Ceci Truman.